API relief valve standards. We will learn what is inside these standards, application of these standards, which is the crux of the video. But before we start, keep your cell phones and notifications in. Any equipment will have something called as MAWP. What does this stand for? MAWP stands for maximum allowable working pressure. This is very important before we even start learning about these standards. Why? Because every equipment has maximum working pressure. That means first understand it is different from design pressure. Design pressure is what happens in abnormal conditions, the maximum pressure that a equipment can withstand. But here it means is in the working condition, what is the maximum pressure that a particular equipment can withstand. Now this information is very critical while selecting standards. Why? Let's look into that. The first criteria that you need to know here is to understand that MAWP of an equipment, if it is equal to or less than 15 psig, then your life is simple. Simple. You have to only remember one important standard that will come for your relief valves. The standard that you will be using for your relief valve is going to be API 2000 standard. Very simple, clear, but don't take my word for it. Let us look what the standard itself says. If you see here, API 2000 standard itself says that for venting atmospheric and low pressure tanks. So you know atmospheric pressure is near about 14.7 psig. See here the clause where it says that for an operating pressure from full vacuum up till your atmospheric pressure, this standard can easily be applied. Decision tree. So when you start with understanding relief valve standards, first if you see is the maximum allowable working pressure less than 15 psig. If your answer is yes, then you will go for API 2000 standard. Simple, clear, no more questions. If it is no, then you need to use your brain, and there are a ton of standards which we will look into. API 521 consists of three important parameters. The first thing is to examine the cause of overpressure, determining the individual relieving rates, and finally what is going to be the disposal system. In API RP 521, first let us understand the overpressure causes. For that, let's take an example. So imagine here's a tank wherein there's an inlet valve and an outlet valve, and there's your relief valve put on the top of it. Now let's understand block discharge condition. So what happens is, let's imagine that your inlet is providing some process fluid which enters the tank, and eventually the tank is going to let this out through a discharge valve. But imagine that your discharge valve is now blocked. What happens now is the pressure inside the tank is going to increase, and this is going to bubble up, eventually leading to the tank even getting completely exploded. So for that, this relief valve has to come into picture, which will basically relieve this pressure out from the equipment. And here's where you come across the first condition, which is called as block discharge condition. Similarly, if you see here, there could be another case also. If you see here right now, this is a particularly case called as external fire, which is a very common case. What happens here is basically if there's an external fire and the equipment catches fire, so the fluid which is going to be inside the equipment is also going to feel the heat, and because of that it is going to expand, and once it expands, then the relief valve has to actually relieve the excess pressure out. So this is called as an external fire condition. Now the third condition is what is called as thermal expansion condition. Here what happens is because of the thermal heat, the fluid which is going to be inside the pipes or the equipment is going to expand. In that case, you also have a relief valve to cater for this expansions, and that is called as a thermal expansion case. But let me tell you, these are some of the common cases you might have heard, but there are numerous amount of overpressure cases. If you look in the standard, you will see basically in section 4.4, you see there are so many different cases here. This is general outlet, when you have is like your overfilling cases, hydraulic expansion, chemical reaction has been common in a lot of accidents that have happened, so for all of those cases, API 521 is your go-to standard to go to. API 520, the next amazing standard. for relief valves. Now here this standard deals with, if you see in a logical fashion, the first one was basically understanding the causes of overpressure. Why was there overpressure in the first place? Now what we have to do is basically design that relief valve. So once we get to know that okay, this is the type of relief valve which might be used, then you have is actually designing, sizing the relief valve. So if you see here, it says very clearly the equipment that has a maximum allowable working pressure of 15 psig or greater. So we got to know the first rule, it has to be at least greater than 15 psig, and this will include all the things such as sizing procedures. And also remember that if your tank is having atmospheric or low pressure application, then API 2000 is still the standard to go for, and this standard will not be applicable in that case. That being the case, let us look into sizing. Sizing is not that easy. If you are really interested, if you want, put it in the comments and I'll make a separate video on sizing. But basically there are a lot of terminologies which come in, like back pressure, your superimposed back pressure, built up back pressure, total back pressure, and a lot of different parameters come into. So for those cases, API 520 is your go-to standard, where you can understand all the procedure about sizing and how can you have a properly sized relief valve, including things like multi-stage, staggering relief valves, etc. So all those things get covered here. Now I would like to tell something which lot of engineers ignore, and that is API 520 part 2, that especially deals with the installation of relief valves. I would like to call about the relief valve plus the rupture disc configuration that can be very helpful to you. Let's try to understand in depth of how can this be helpful to you as an engineer. If you see here, you would understand this is a rupture disc plus relief valve assembly. If you see here, this is your rupture disc, this is your relief valve, and here's where you have your flanged connection to it. Now this assembly has a lot of different advantages, but first let us understand how does this work. If you see here, you would understand that as the pressure or the process fluid here is hitting, it is going to hit the rupture disc and not your relief valve. So when your rupture disc will burst at an event when the pressure is higher than even the burst pressure of the rupture disc, then the fluid is going to enter your relief valve. And once the liquid then enters your relief valve, then the entire process of pop-up of the action and then extra fluid relieving out will then take place. But just adding a simple rupture disc would make a ton of difference. How? What happens basically is, because your rupture disc is acting as a barrier here, you save cost. How? Because when you need exotic materials like Hastelloy, you don't need to make the entire relief valve internals made of the same material. You can make that to be SS, and just your rupture disc can be made of Hastelloy. So that helps you to save cost. The second thing that it will help you is to reduce your leakage rates. How is that possible? Is because your rupture disc completely seals it. So even if your relief valve is in closed position, but still there is going to be minor leakage that is going to go out. So for fugitive emission cases, this is a perfect combination for you to use. So your leakage rate is almost equal to none. And the third important thing is, it includes the long durability of your materials. Why? Because the corrosive fluid is not entering within your relief valve. So that being the case, you are having a very good chance of higher durability of all of these mechanical components in a very long run. I would love to have you actually look into the standard and motivate you to actually learn more and in depth about it. So here's the standard, and if you see here, it also gives you a lot of insight on the exact installation. For example, if you see here, for this case, when it says that it is open to atmosphere, how will you have the outlet? Will the outlet be on the top or it will be facing at the bottom? If you see here, it's very clearly mentioned how it will be at the top, and where there will be a weather cap is required to be maintained so something does not ingress inside the relief valve. So all of these things are very important. Similarly, you see here, you can see that when it's going to a closed drain system, how should be the configuration available. So all of these things, and if you see here on the same thing, you can see it says that for the bonnet, for the venting, there should not be any plugged system. Let us look this part in the depth of what does the standard want to say. This bellow seal valve, I have myself seen in a lot of site installations that basically people forget that this plug should not be closed. This vent plug here for bellows has to be there for breathing of the bellows, and if you close it, you completely defeat the purpose of the relief valve. So all such minor things are covered in the standard, and I highly recommend you that you should definitely read this standard. It will save a lot of engineering errors, plus it will save lives. because relief valve is your last point of action to save your plant, people. Let us quickly just have a look into what we have learned so far. So for overpressure causes and for selection, you might love APF 521. Then for sizing, you might love APF 520 part 1. For installation, you would love is APF 520 part 2. But that being said, very one important thing is once you have done all of this, then comes the important part of purchasing it. And there are a lot of intricacies involved when it gets to purchasing of your relief valve. What are those? Let's look into that.
I'm ready.
Now, if you see here, you might have heard, in a relief valve, there was some terminology like 1D2. What does this stand for? All of this has come from the APF 526 standard. And if you see in this standard, you would see that this 1 stands for the inlet. So this, for example, for our case, it is 1 inch. D stands for the orifice size. And 2 stands for the outlet. All of these things have come from API 526. But let us try to look at to what is the scope of this standard. If you come to the scope of this standard, you will see that it gives you a lot of valuable information. For example, the orifice designation and area, valve size and pressure rating, material selection, temperature pressure limits, and center face-to-face dimensions. We will look into all of these tables so you get a better idea and know that how important these details are. Let's take into the orifice designation. So what we saw earlier, like DEF has actual effective orifice area, that is given in the table 1. All the material selection of bellows, bonnet, of your body, flange, etc. is given. For example, if you see here, based on temperature, they have given the spring material that can be selected. So this helps you as a very good guide when you are doing material selection and purchasing your relief valve. The next important thing that comes into picture is your actual dimensions. If you see here, you get to know your inlet outlet rating, you get to know if it's bellows seal, then what is your rating, and finally very important, center to face dimensions. You want your relief valve to fit into the existing assembly of piping and all of these components, right? So your manufacturers have to have a certain dimension that they need to follow, otherwise your relief valve will not fit in the piping system. So this is where you get this standard to be very handy to get all of these details. If you see here, one important thing is missing in this standard, and that is leakage. Leakage is very important. Why? Because a relief valve is normally closed. So if it has a very high leakage, it will keep on releasing your important materials or fugitive emission gases continuously in the atmosphere, which is not at all good. So what API did for this case was they came up with a complete standard dedicated to seat tightness, because it is so important, and that is why you have a separate standard called as API 527, which covers with the seat tightness. It includes various test mediums like steam, water, air, etc. Let's look at this table here, where you see here, this explains you is basically based on the pressure, what should be the bubble rate. Similar to control valves, you have the bubble rate philosophy here, but everything is bubble rate because your leakage has to be very minor. And in case if you can't still go with that leakage, use a rupture disc with a relief valve. Basically for overpressure and for selection, you will have API 521. For sizing, you will be having API 520 part 1. For installations, you can have is API 520 part 2. You can take a screenshot of this for you to remember during your project execution. For purchasing, you can take API RP 526, and finally for seat leakage, you will have API RP 527. In the video description and in the pinned comment, I've put a link to the PDF document which summarizes plus gives you this chart so that you can memorize and use it easily in your projects. It will be available in the video description and in the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching.